Welcome to OLC 40. This is class 29. We are on lesson 18, and this is assignment 42, part C. You just kind of fix that because this is what goes up on the website. Sorry about that. Part C. Okay. These are all the ways to reach me. I'm in the studio right now. You can call 1-800-465-7144. I will be in the office for about an hour afterwards. 1-800-667-3703. You can fax your work to me at 1-800-463-7852. You can email your work at actually email me a question, don't email me the work. Jillian.percy@nnecschools.org. The problem with emailing me the work directly is if the teacher changes, then they can't find it. If you submit your assignment to student.work@nnec.on.ca, no extra period there, then it goes into the system. The secretary can log it. I still get it. It goes into my mailbox, but this way it won't get lost in the system. Please remember to put your full name, your lesson number, and the assignment name or number on it. I get a lot of assignments. If I'm not sure where an assignment goes, I don't mark it right away. I just wait until I can talk to the student because each assignment has a different marking scheme. Please make sure to send in the rough copy and the good copy together. It's really confusing to have them sent in differently. Also, please label them rough copy and good copy, especially if you've handwritten both. That I really don't always know for sure. The other thing is for assignments like we're doing today, where there's like part A, part B, wait till you have all the parts done and then submit it. Sometimes when you're working on the last part, you may find you want to go back and revise other things. So it's better to just kind of work on it all together and then hand it in as one larger assignment, okay? I want to discuss pronouns a little bit today. I was noticing a few problems with pronouns in people's sentences. There's certain types of pronouns that are the subject. They're the ones that would be the initiator of the action. And those are I, you, he, she, it, we, and they. You're usually going to see them at the beginning of a simple sentence. So examples would be, I went to the store. She liked to eat pizza. We drove home. They won the hockey game. You can also see them at the beginning of a main clause after an introductory phrase. For example, after the clouds blew in, it started to rain. Yesterday, she said she would be here. At the store, you asked me to buy grapes. If Jane had known you were mad, she would have said something. Now, sometimes pronouns are not the subject. They are the direct or the indirect object or the object of a prepositional phrase. And in those cases, we use the object pronouns to show that they are the receiver of the object of the action. The object pronouns are me, you, him, her, it, us, you, and them. So it's funny, we use the same word you for whether it's plural, singular, and also for whether it's an object or a subject. I don't really have any idea why. The rest are different, but you stays the same. It also, I guess, stays the same too. Here are some examples. We threw the ball to her. So she's receiving the action of throwing. Please give the toy back to me. Do you want to go to the hockey game with us? I told my mom to give the money to you. I can't believe she is going out with him. Well, I can't believe that he is going out with her. And you can see for those, I couldn't say, I can't believe she is going out with he. It sounds wrong. I have to put the object pronoun there, not the subject pronoun. She bought them lunch at McDonald's. All right, there's also something called reflexive pronouns. And these are generally used when the action is both done by and received by the same person. I'll give you some examples of that in a second, but these are the reflexive pronouns: myself, yourself, himself, herself, itself, ourselves, yourselves, themselves. And here there's a difference between the singular you and the plural you. Because here I could be talking to one person, here I could be talking to an entire class. Okay, so here's an example in a sentence. He bought the car for himself. He bought the car, but he's also giving it to himself. I gave the smallest piece of pizza to myself. So I'm the one that's giving it, but I'm giving it to myself. We rebuilt the car ourselves. We rebuilt it. It's us that did it. The children amused themselves playing in the action. The children are amusing, but they're also who they are amusing. We can also use reflexive pronouns to add emphasis to a sentence. When we're trying to show something's unusual or different, he wants to pass his driving test so that he can drive himself to work. She broke her arm, so she couldn't wash herself very easily. We can use reflexive pronouns to emphasize that someone does it personally, that exact person, not anybody else. The door was definitely locked. I locked it myself. I didn't rely on anyone else. I did it. Are you redecorating your flat yourselves? It's kind of emphasizing that it's that person doing it by saying it in another way. You can also use a reflexive pronoun together with the noun it's referring to, and again, in order to emphasize it. We talked to the manager herself, and she agreed to give our money back. Parents themselves need to take more responsibility for their children's learning. It's when you're really trying to emphasize the importance of the person involved. Okay, and we have talked, hang on a second. It can also be used to show that someone's doing something all alone. We use by and then the reflexive pronoun to mean done alone, done without anyone else. He usually goes on holiday by himself. Do you enjoy being by yourself? We've talked previously about possessive pronouns, but I just kind of wanted to talk about them in context here. These are pronouns that show that something belongs to someone or to something. The possessive pronouns are my, your, his, her, its, our, your, their. And these are those in context. Susie always took good care of her boots. Dad drove his car to work. I like to wear my fur-topped boots in winter. It seems like your head is hurting today. Can we just eat the pizza at our house since the restaurant is busy? All the students took their books home for the weekend. All right, so here is some sentences, and we've got some different types of pronouns. We have to choose which one is the correct one for the sentence. I wanted to give a birthday present to her, she, or herself. Okay, if I said she, does that work? No, because we already have a subject over here. I need to use the object pronoun her. Why can't I use herself? Because herself would be used either for emphasis or when she's the giver and the receiver. And in this case, someone else is the giver. He preferred going to the gym by him, by he, or by himself. So himself, because we're emphasizing that he's alone. Whenever Dad could, he played golf, him played golf, or himself played golf. We have to use he because it's the subject, right? It comes before the verb playing. So we need the subject he, not the object him. Something went to the movies with her friends. She went to the movies, her went to the movies, or herself went. I have to use she because it's the subject of the sentence, right? It's coming right before the verb. It's the subject. She went to the movies. The dog accidentally bit it or itself. So in this case, I'm saying it bit itself. So it was the giver of the action, but it also is the receiver. And I was thinking of, like, how puppies sometimes accidentally bite their own tails and they're so confused. Mom and someone make pies for the bake sale. Mom and I, mom and me, or mom and myself. All right, well, here's the verb make. So it's coming right before, which means it needs to be the subject pronoun, I. Did you want to come to the store with I, with me, or with myself? Well, here's our verbs, right? There's my subject right in front. This is an object. It's coming after the prepositional phrase and another prepositional phrase. So I'm going to use the object pronoun, me. John said to give the bike to you, yourself, or yourselves. And it's you. I can't use the reflexive pronouns because you isn't also the subject. It's only the object. Okay, I want to do a quick review of the reading log just to remind you. If you used up your original log, you can just make one for yourself on lined paper or computer. It doesn't have to be the official one. I can still tell it. It's easy enough to do a table. Remember, any kind of text is legitimate for this, okay? This is going to be handed in as part of your portfolio. So I'm just kind of reminding you, because that portfolio is coming up soon. If you haven't done this for a while, maybe take a moment, look at what you've been reading for the last couple of weeks and get yourself kind of caught up so you're not having to do it all at once at the same time as you're doing the portfolio and prepping for the exam and all that kind of stuff. So here are some examples. We've got the date, the type of the text, the title, and possibly the author. Some of these don't really have an author. I could have included some. I didn't. Some of them have multiple authors is the problem. The Sioux Bulletin would have multiple authors. This would have multiple authors. This would have been by whatever the teacher name's in. So I kind of forgot the author part. Then you can tell me how long it took you to read or how many pages you read. And again, I don't matter. Like, you're not going to get more marks for reading more or less marks for reading less. I do need to see these kind of entries though. And then what was the main idea of what you read? So Auntie's blueberry muffin recipe was how to make muffins. The airline ticket refund policies. The main idea is I can't really get the refund I wanted. I can only get a credit for the amount. Song lyrics. The song lyrics might have different ideas, maybe love, anger, regrets, loneliness. The school permission slip for a child's upcoming field trip. The main idea is just, am I giving them permission or not? A magazine article with Ryan Reynolds. It was basically just information about the new Barbie movie. The Sioux Bulletin. Lots of different articles about things happening around town. Okay. So today's assignment, we are in lesson 18. We are working on assignment 42, and this is part C. So part C is writing an information paragraph. It's going to be worth 12 marks. And we are using the information that you've gathered in part B, as well as the information from Rob Taylor's article that we read, the one about scholarships. And you're going to write an information paragraph on how to apply for a scholarship or bursary for your chosen field. Be sure you do the following. Begin your paragraph with a topic sentence that explains the main findings of your research. Include at least 4 supporting details or steps that support your topic sentence. Cite at least 2 sources of information. Write a conclusion for your information paragraph. Do any necessary revising or editing before preparing your final version of the paragraph. Use the checklist and the rubric below to guide your writing. So here is the checklist. It's got these subheadings: reading, planning, writing, revising and editing, and producing. And then in each section, they've got individual things they want you to check. So for reading, make sure you've read your sources carefully. For planning, make sure you've taken notes on at least 4 key points that can be grouped together. Make sure also that you've got a unifying main idea about one specific aspect of the topic. For writing, there's a bunch of different things they want you to look at. Have you written your paragraph in complete sentences? Written a topic sentence that clearly states my main idea about the specific aspect of my topic? Have I written at least 4 supporting details in the body of the paragraph to develop the main idea I expressed in my topic sentence? Have I placed my supporting details in the best order? Summarized my main idea in my concluding sentence? Organized my ideas clearly to help my reader follow and understand my information paragraph? Used linking words to connect my ideas? Objectively presented my facts and information? Conveyed an effective tone through word choice and the level of language? And then revising and editing. Have you used the stage of the writing process to revise your work? Created an information paragraph that will appeal to your audience? Created an information paragraph that meets your purpose? Checked your grammar, spelling, and punctuation? Had a peer edit your work? And then producing, or what they sometimes call as presenting. You've chosen an appropriate title, neatly and clearly written or typed my final copy. This is the checklist that you're supposed to go through as you create the assignment to make sure you're doing it correctly. This is the overall rubric for all 3 parts. It's not really as detailed as the checklist. This is not really as useful. You use the first part. I'm just kind of mentioning it here. It is really, really important that you've chosen a specific field of study before you start part C, though. And here's the reason. The different bursaries or scholarships have different criteria for applying. So a scholarship to help you study art might want to see a portfolio of your work. A scholarship to help you study nursing might want to see community work done in the health field. Or a scholarship for an apprenticeship program might want to see a reference letter from the company you've agreed with to work with. Until you've narrowed down your research to a specific field or program to apply to, it's going to be really hard to specify how those bursaries want you to apply because you won't really know. So I'm going to give you an example of what I mean, a couple examples really. So this is from that Scholarship Canada site that Rob Taylor mentions in part A of our assignment. So to get details, I had to create an account, and it asks a whole bunch of questions, but it didn't cost any money. So that is one thing. You can get basic information without making an account, but to get more details, you need to make the account, just so you know. So here's an example. This is the CFUW Aboriginal Women's Award. It is provided by the Canadian Federation of University Women. It is not an automatic consideration thing. The value is between $10,000 to $25,000. The award is renewable. Now it's funny because it says here it's not, but down here it says it is. I would want to check that with whoever you're talking to. An applicant will be considered eligible on the basis of the following criteria: Canadian Aboriginal woman, studying in Canada, holds or will hold an undergraduate university degree for which she before the award is granted, must have applied to be a full-time student in any year at a recognized or accredited Canadian post-secondary degree granting institution. And then it lists some specific programs that are eligible. Over here, it gives you some more information. What's the level of study? What year? Some scholarships are only good for the first year, and the opposite is true. Some are only good if you're past your first year. What kind of school? Some are tied to only one school. Field of study. This says any. It's not really any, but it's kind of specific. Do you have to live in a certain spot? Do you need financial need? No. Gender. This is one thing to look at. Sometimes they're only for women or only for men. And then heritage. This one is only if you are Aboriginal. It works whether you're full-time or part-time. Okay. Let me think here. This is one called the John Gustafson Bursary in Arts and Humanities. It's provided by Western University. And my memory is that it's only, yeah, you have to be at Western for this one to count. It's good any year. It's if you're aiming towards your bachelor, you do have to show that you have financial need. Okay. but there's no gender requirement. It's good for men or women. It's $3,500. And this was some more information. It's good for arts, humanities. I thought it also said science somewhere. Sorry. Oh, yeah. Down here it says liberal arts and sciences. There's an online application form. It has to be completed by October 31st. The office will select the recipient. And here's how it was established. Okay. So this is a pretty broad one, as long as you've got financial need. This one is kind of interesting. They're specifically looking for somebody who's working in visual arts at the school, but who they can sort of demonstrate that they're planning to continue working in visual arts. You also need to show good academic standing. This is not for a first-year student, and they specifically say they're going to give preference to a mature student. You have to have at least 80 or above for your academics. But you have to think about, how would you demonstrate that you are planning to continue? Would you show them a portfolio, maybe a job offer, or that you've already got a part-time job in the field? Maybe that you're currently submitting work to art shows or currently selling artwork in some way. This is why I was saying you have to kind of look at the field to have an idea about what kind of things you need to do to get ready. I think I've got one more. Oh, this is one. This one is $5,000. It's a scholarship geared towards students who are hoping for a career in electrical work, who also enjoy traveling, which I thought was interesting. So you'd have to kind of mention how you love traveling, probably that you've done some. This one is also interesting to me because it was really broad. A lot of them, it had to only be like a bachelor degree. This one you can use for anything as long as it's related to electrical study. So an apprenticeship program, a trade certificate, out of college, a diploma, or an engineering degree, those are all okay. And yep, Indigenous. I was just taking a look. Yep. Specifically also for an Indigenous student who wants to be working in this field of electricity. So there really is some interesting things out there to help support people if they want to go on to post-secondary. So as you're doing this and writing up your paragraph, it's possible you may realize that when you did your work on part B that you didn't quite get enough information and that you need to go back and revise the research. That's fine. That's one reason why I said don't hand it in until you have all the parts completed, okay? All right, brainstorming your paragraph. They want to make sure that you do some from the research on scholarships and some information from Rob's article that we read in part A. So some of his information was pretty universal, and it would probably be important when applying to any scholarship. So then you want to take a look at the research you found. Was there anything that showed up repeatedly? The same deadline, a need for financial support, a certain level of marks? Did you find that gender or race was an important element? Also, were the majority of scholarships looking for the same type of extras? Did they want some sort of community involvement? Did they need portfolios? Were they looking for specific work or volunteer experiences? Were they looking for certain sports or certain extracurricular activities? Like, for example, if you were applying for drama, they might want to see that you're involved in community drama programs or involved in your high school drama program. Creating your topic sentence or writing the paragraph. I believe I've mentioned this before. The assignment calls for you to write a topic sentence that summarizes the main finding of your research. For one thing, it's possible your research didn't all point in the same direction. It's okay to say that up front. You don't need to force a unified conclusion. Sometimes you can step back, though, and think of a more general conclusion that will work for the whole thing. I still find I do best when I write the paragraph first and then kind of go back and think about a way to organize that into one big idea. That just works for me. You don't have to do it that way. You can do it any way that appeals to you. Writing your rough draft. Remember that you need at least 4 supporting details to illustrate your topic sentence. It could also be 4 steps to applying for a scholarship. So think about, what were your main points about how to apply for a scholarship in your field, the field that you said you wanted to look into? Was there anything that seemed unique or special? Like I thought the one about that they were looking for a mature student was kind of interesting. I wasn't expecting that one. Was there anything that really surprised you? The one about travel. I don't know why that would be an important one, but they thought that was important. Where can you incorporate Rob's advice? There was a lot of it, so you're gonna have to pick and choose. It's better to write more for your rough draft and then go back and edit it later, because you can always edit down. It's hard if you've written your rough draft to edit longer, right? By nature, editing tends to shorten. Closing sentence. Think about how you're writing your closing sentence. Are you summarizing a series of steps? Are you creating an overall point of view that you're trying to restate? Are you going to relist the main points? Did you reach some sort of overall overriding conclusion? Try writing a few different types and see what you think sounds best. All right, now they mentioned specifically that you have to cite 2 different sources. And I'm not sure if you've seen that phrase before. What is citing a work? It simply means that you're making sure to give credit to who wrote the information you found. It's showing that you didn't simply make something up, but also that what you're writing is derived from someone else's work. It is a type of honesty, and neglecting it or doing it poorly can sometimes be treated as plagiarism, even if it was done accidentally. So in this assignment, 2 different sources. There are lots of different ways to cite works. It depends on what field you're in, right? How the English department does it is different than the psychology, is different than other departments. So you have to know English uses MLA style, so I'm going to use that. That's the Modern Language Association style. If you do end up going on to college, ask your professor in each course what they want, because you'll be surprised. You might have 4 courses that have like 3 different ways you've got to do your citations. There's not necessarily a huge difference, but it's big enough that you want to be aware of it. Okay, so MLA format generally follows the author's name comes first, and then the page number format. So for example, to quote Rob's article in your paragraph, you're going to put his last name and the page number that it appeared in our coursework, but at the end in brackets. So Rob Taylor suggests that the most important part of getting a scholarship is to prepare ahead of time. And then I put 12. I've already mentioned his name in the sentence, so I don't need to mention it again in the brackets. But if I didn't include his name in the sentence, then I would want to include it in the brackets along with the page number. The most important part of getting a scholarship is to prepare ahead of time. Taylor, 12. And then if you're going to have to cite things, you're going to need to include a works cited page. I don't know why they didn't list it, but they go together. If you have the one, you pretty much have to have the other. So here is how you would list the article in the works cited section. You need to do it exactly this way. You put the name, last name first, then the first name. In quotation marks, you put the article title, then you put the text that you found it, which is the Ontario Literacy Course, grade 12, Unit 4, demonstrating success in reading and writing. And then you would put the date of publication, which at this point is 2023. All right. But you're also doing web pages. So this is kind of pulled right off the site called Purdue OWL. It's one of the major sites for understanding how to do this kind of citation. Electronic sources may include web pages, online news, or magazine articles. And then they give you an example. One online film critic stated that Fitzcarraldo has become notorious for its near failure and many obstacles. And then they put the last name and the article. And here's a different one. The Purdue OWL is accessed by millions of users every year. Its MLA formatting and style guide is one of the most popular resources. And here they've mentioned all the information right in the sentence, so you don't need to have anything afterwards. We don't have to worry about page numbers when you're doing web pages because it's really depending on whether you're looking at a phone or an iPad. It's all going to be formatted differently, so page numbers aren't as relevant when you're doing web pages. We make sure to use the writer's last name and the article name in the brackets. If no author is listed, then you would put the website in brackets. So down here, oh, that's for the web cited properly. Hang on a second. All right, yeah. So down here is on the works cited page. This is the format you would follow for electronic sources. If it's got a specific author, you put their last name, then their first name, the title of the article in quotation marks with a period, the website name, and you italicize. Italicizing is, see this I, you would click on that, scoop it, and it kind of slants it. Then you put the day, the date that you, it was written, if it's listed in the day, month, year format. You'd list the URL, and then you would say what day you accessed it. And that is important with websites because people change websites all the time, right? Even newspapers will update an article with new information. If there is no author listed, skip the author, but then you just follow the rest of the format, okay? So, let me see here. Okay, like I said, you're going to need to include a works cited page. I've shown you how to write it. There is a website. This is the Purdue website that has all sorts of information. I know this is different, and if you haven't done this before, I don't want you to stress too much about it, okay? I'm not going to be super nitpicky. I do want to see that you've tried it, but I just want to get you to have a little bit of practice before you go on to college. I know a lot of students are planning to go on to college, so I want to make sure you know how to do it, okay? Here is an example of what that would look like. At the top, it would actually say works cited, and then I would put it in alphabetical order. So R comes before T, so I actually would need to put this one first. This one's totally made up, just so you know. Cut. And I'd leave a space. So I'd be looking at the author's last name and putting it in order. A sec. And then I would follow the format, okay? You indent the rest of the citation because you're trying to make the last name stand out so it's easy for people to find. Okay, so at this point, hopefully you've got your rough copy all done and you are at the spot where you are going back and you are rereading to do all your revisions. This is super important, okay? We are getting near the end of the course. If your good copy and your rough copy look exactly the same, then you are not going to get good marks for your revising because you aren't doing any, okay? I know it gets tedious to keep checking your sentence structure, but I really do find that even in my own writing, this is the area where it's easiest to make mistakes. It's just so simple to accidentally write run-on sentences when you're writing quickly. So remember that yesterday we looked at two different types of run-on sentences. One is the fused sentence, where two sentences have just been written as one and there's no punctuation. I never should have trusted him. I knew all along he would leave me, right? When you get to I again, a whole new sentence is started. We can just put a period there. The other kind of run-on sentence is called a comma splice run-on sentence. And this is when you've joined two sentences with only a comma. And sometimes it's because they're so closely connected that you feel they should be joined. And that's fine, but you just can't join them with a comma. So, oh, wait, hang on a second. Okay, hang on. However, there are 4 ways to fix a run-on sentence. One, like we just did before, separate the two sentences with a period. That's fine. Or If you're wanting to show they're connected, put a semicolon where you have the comma, right? And a semicolon looks like a comma with a period on top. And that shows that they're two separate sentences, but they're connected by their meaning. That is fine. You can also join them using a coordinating conjunction after the comma. And the coordinating conjunctions are for and nor, but, or, yet, and so. The most common one is and. The other thing you can do is you can add a subordinating conjunction after the comma. No, that's not quite right. Hang on a second. To help indicate the relationship between the sentences. So I'm going to talk to you, I think. Nope. Oh, sorry, I think I got moved around here. Okay, this is what I wanted. Okay, here is a list of the subordinating conjunctions. I'm not going to read them all, but after, although, and as, only if, provided that. If a subordinate conjunction is at the very beginning of the sentence, then the clause is followed by a comma. If you want to go to the store, comma, you have to come now. This is okay. And the reason is because that subordinating conjunction is linking the two sentences together. However, if the subordinate conjunction comes in the middle of the sentence, you don't even need a comma. And all you have to do is just reverse the order of the words. You have to come now if you want to go to the store, right? And you can see here we've got, let's see, what can I put it in? Orange. You have to come now. All I did was take the exact same clause and I put it at the front instead. I used if to join them. Okay, so either of these two ways is also a way that you can connect things. Yep. Okay, now that you know the sentence structure is solid, this is where I would look at how to polish up the writing style. Is your tone right for the audience in the format? Well, I'm your audience and the format is an informational paragraph. Have I used interesting words? Have I repeated certain words too often? Can I find some synonyms? Is it appropriately formal or informal, depending on the format? This assignment would be formal. Should I add any transition words to help sentences flow together more smoothly? So some possible transition words might be first, then, after that, next, then I heard or saw, after a while, sometime past, before, finally, at last. After you've got it sounding as good as you want, then is when you're going to go back and try and make sure that some of those more obscure grammar concepts are done correctly. So here are some of the smaller things that can trip people up. Do the subjects and the verbs agree? In other words, have you remembered to use a single verb with a single subject, plural verb with a plural subject? Have you used a consistent verb tense? Normally in this kind of writing, you're picking one kind of verb tense. For this, you're describing the steps for someone to do something, and that something is, I would say, in the future, but you could probably write it in the present tense as well. Whichever one you choose, you kind of want to stick to it so it makes sense. Have you used the subject and the object pronouns in the right places? Have you left off any articles or prepositions that might help the sentence make sense? A really good way to find those is read the paragraph out loud to yourself. Often we know it sounds wrong when we hear it, and you'll just know what it is and add it right back in. So, and that's what you do. Write it, read it, and then write back in what's lost, okay? If you're not sure, if something sounds a little bit funny, have a friend read it and see what they say. Does it sound right? I know this is a really subjective phrase, but it is one of the things that I look for when I edit my own work. Sometimes I'm looking at something and it just sounds or looks wrong, and I can't figure out why, but I get uncomfortable. Trust your instinct on this. Find a way to rephrase the sentence. If it doesn't quite sound right, there probably is something wrong that you're just not quite remembering, but it's kind of there in your brain. So trust yourself on that one. Oh, it got done twice. There we go. That's what happened. All right, conventions. Now that you've got everything sounding exactly the way you want, you need to go over the smaller things. You need to check for spelling errors. You need to check for punctuation errors. Commas and quotation marks are the most common errors. The other thing I'm sometimes seeing is capitalization errors. Have all the place names been capitalized? Is the word I capitalized? This includes even in contractions such as I'm, I'd, or I'll. What I'm sometimes getting these days is I'll get this in a sentence. I'll be starting soon. But you absolutely can't. I is considered a capital word because it's referring to a person, right? So no matter what, it still is a capital. Okay. I know in a word like this, it ends up looking like it's a bunch of lines because unfortunately, capital I and lowercase l look the same, although only in some fonts. If it really bugs you, you can always change the font. I think, is there a font that looks different in? There you go. So a serif font, it's not as obvious. Does the beginning of every sentence start with a capital letter? Have you accidentally put capital letters where they don't belong? This is most common in handwritten assignments. There are certain letters that I find people they prefer the uppercase and they want to use them even though it might be in the middle of a word. So for example, B, D, M, N, and A. So here is an example of what that looks like. They might say something like, I like bananas and I think here nectarines. Now, that is really obvious when you see it typed, especially because you have to hit the shift key to make it happen. But if you were actually handwriting it like this, it's not always as obvious. Some people are just so used to seeing that they don't realize it's not quite right. So be mindful that if you do this, you're going to have to carefully go back, white it out, and fix those spots where you used capitals, but they don't really belong. The default in English is that we use the lowercase letters. We only use the uppercase for emphasis. So that is correct. Okay. Quickly, I'm going to go back and talk about this article really quickly. Hang on a second. Where are we? Oh my goodness. Okay. So it's an information paragraph. You want at least 4 supporting details or steps. You have to cite 2 different places where you got the information, write the conclusion, do the necessary revising or editing. This particular checklist is in general talking about all the same kind of things that I just talked about. Okay, just kind of put there, it's a little more, I don't know, concise, I guess. Okay, so this is a great thing. And here's the thing, if you're going through and you find, oh, wait, that doesn't look right, well, just go ahead and fix it. So for example, if you're looking at things and think, hey, I didn't summarize my main idea. Oh, okay, well, maybe I better go back and do that now. Or, oh, I didn't use any linking words to connect my ideas. That's a really important one. It makes a huge impact on how your sentence sounds. And again, this is for your overall. If you need to go back and revise things, that is fine. I'm going to do a quick example. Where's my stuff? Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't have an example ready. Oh, okay. So I found it hard to make a good conclusion on the most important way or criteria to get a scholarship for writing. Okay. Is that a great start? No, I'll probably go back and change it. Hang on a second. So then I would have to think what were my points? Did they want to see signs that I had written? Did they want to see signs that I'd published? Did I need to be already in a writing program for them to be willing to give me money? Did they want a certain grade point? Were they looking specifically for women or specifically for men? Were they looking for people from remote parts of the province or people from a certain type of heritage? If I didn't find any concluding factors, what I might start to do is think about how to organize this around steps. Sorry, guys, I can feel my voice beginning to go here. So I might say, the first step I discovered was I'm so sorry, guys. We're kind of wrapping up anyways, and my voice is definitely going. So I'm just going to finish this up, and I will talk to you guys on Monday.